So you're listening to Salt and Honey. I believe this is, episode 10?
Yes.
And we're here with Leslie.
Hi.
And our special guest, Rem.
Hello.
Yay.
Yay.
You might know Rem from the webcomic Devil's Candy. She's been one of my favorite artists for a long, long time. So to that, and
same.
Kind of like she's kind of like one of the guests that I was like, maybe she'll come on and like we can talk to her and like pick her brain a bit. But I was like, maybe it's a long shot. I mean, she's really nice, but you know,
top of our wish list.
Totally. I was like, Sloane, can we ask Rem to be on the podcast? And she was like, yeah. And then I was like, yes, good. I was gonna ask anyway, but
you guys, it's crazy.
So.
Don't embarrass me too much right off the bat, or else
you like just stop talking because you don't want to talk anymore. You're like, oh,
yeah, I'll run away.
You're like, these people are freaks.
That's true, though. We are.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Rem, do you want to tell us a little bit about like your history in comics and starting comics? Because you have like a huge number of like graphic novels under your belt.
Oh, not a huge number, but
it's a lot. It's a lot.
I started a really long time ago because I'm like doing stuff. But yeah, I guess I mean like I've always wanted to do comics, but the first thing that I did that got published was the Rising Stars and Manga thing that everybody knows me for. The first Rising Stars of manga. Yeah, so I won the grand prize to that, and that led to the prize was, there was a small monetary prize, but then there was also like the ability to pitch your comic to Tokyopop and have it maybe published by them. So we did that, and the contract they gave us was not like super cool, so we just like were like, whatever, maybe we'll sit on that. And then they asked me if I wanted to be the artist on a series called Vampire Kisses, which was young adult novel at the time, like novel series. And so they just wanted it to be adapted into comics. So there were 3 volumes of that, but I only did the first 2, and that was okay. It was a learning experience. Working with Tokyopop was interesting.
Yeah, I've heard horror stories.
There are a lot of horror stories, and I had it really good compared to a lot of my friends. Yeah, so my editor there, he's a cool guy, and I'm still friends with him and stuff. So most of the time,
that's cool.
Yeah, most of the time we just like we're laughing at Vampire Kisses because it's a really dorky book. But
I mean, the name says it all.
Yeah,
really.
It does. It really does. But it was like, I mean, like, as much as I make fun of Vampire Kisses, it was like really cute, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was for like 13-year-olds, and that the people that it was for really liked it, so I think it was successful. Yeah, after that I worked in video games for a little while, and then I ended up on Soulless for Yen Press. And that was another novel adaptation. Gail Carriger, she does a lot of books. She's like super prolific. But Soulless has like, oh god, I can't even remember how many books it has. I want to say 6, but I did 3 out of the series, and I won't be doing more. People keep asking me. But
is the comic still going on, like, or is it just over after you finish? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was sort of like an experiment with Gail to see if she wanted to keep having it as a comic and stuff, or that was the impression I got. And it was really, really difficult because the at the time Yen Press had a magazine of comics, and it was being serialized monthly in a magazine. And I had never done that before, where I'm producing like 25 to 35 pages a month, every month, and it was pretty difficult. but yeah, I think that's it as far as comics go. 3 volumes of Soulless. Yeah.
So what made you guys restart Devil's Candy?
It was Soulless, actually.
No, I mean, but like after Soulless.
Yeah, because I worked on Soulless, and I was.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why I didn't do more books is because I was like pouring so much heart and so much like mental and physical pain into the work that I was like, I can't do this. I can't adapt other people's stories anymore. Let's do our own story, because it's like for years I've been doing other people's stuff, and it was fun, but like we really wanted to do an original story, regardless of what it cost us. So yeah, I pretty much said no to any further work with Yen, so that I could just spend some time on my own stuff. And we picked Devil's Candy because it was just the most fun, and it was the most different from anything I had been working on.
Yeah.
So, but mostly because it was the most fun. So
I can totally see you having like more fun, and it feels like your like character design and layouts are more free because it feels like you're more in your element.
Yeah, and working with Bikuri is, if I accidentally say Clint, that's Bikuri. Working with him is really nice, because it's like we share the same brain, sort of thing, whereas working on Soulless was really just me taking the novel and transcripting it into a script and then turning it into a comic, and I wasn't getting any input from a writer otherwise. So having a collaborative process has been really fun for me. So
that's cool. What is your like writer and art relationship on Devil's Candy like? Like, are you involved a lot with the story as well? Or?
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a collaborative effort, but I mean, I'd say like I leave him alone as far as like writing the script and stuff, but I will have a lot of input. And he's the same with me, looking over pages and stuff, suggesting a different emotion or expression or whatever. So, and as far as like developing the world and developing the characters, it's really 50-50 there. It's a total collaborative process as far as that goes. So it's not like, he gives me writing, he gives me the scripts, and then I just draw it, Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. I love stuff like that.
It's a lot more fun for me to have someone where you're like building the story by just having conversations with them, and just like, having fun talking about it the way you talk about like your favorite series or whatever.
Totally. It's like the ideal collaborative, like I feel like that's kind of the best way to collaborate with someone.
Yeah, I'm really lucky.
And did you say Devil's Candy was like you restarted it? Had you like revamped it? Like it was an older story you had worked on? It was like an older story.
We like I mean, we had it like on the back burner for a really long time, just because it was so much fun to keep going back to and think about. But yeah, we revamped it because we really didn't like take it very far. We had other stories that we were working on more intensely, like that were really more developed, that are now on the back burner. But yeah, Devil's Candy, like it was such a simple concept that we felt like we could go anywhere with it, once we started working on it again. And what we had was really it was really old and like dumb, so we just wanted to throw it all out and take like just elements from what we were thinking about before and totally redo it.
Yeah, I remember when I think I was probably around 12 when Rising Stars of Manga came out. Was it? I was pretty young. Oh, actually, I was like a teen, because I remember like one of my friends at the time was a runner-up in the first one, and I remember seeing Devil's Candy, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much better than everything else in here. No offense to my former online friend, but I was really blown away at like how like amazing your detailing was, and like your inking and just everything. And it was it was kind of like the first time I felt like I could see like that someone could make something actually good and they weren't super far away. It didn't feel like, oh, it was like someone in Japan like that I would never meet. But it was like someone from America who had done something like this to like this level of skill. So it was really inspiring, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's really weird thinking back on making that thing, because I found out about the contest like a week and a half before it was over, and we didn't have any. Yeah, we didn't know that it was happening. So like the actual like in my head, like thinking back to actually doing it is this huge blur. Like I don't even know how we like developed the story anymore. Like I can't remember. I just know that I had drawn like Pandora and their PE teacher, Skeleton Ninja Sensei, like in doodles for class, and I was like, let's just use these characters. And I don't know how anything else got built. I think it was all equity. But yeah, I was just so inspired by like Yusuke Murata at the time. I was reading like iShield had just come out not too long ago, and I was like obsessed with it because it was so just perfect. Like I wanted to be just like Yusuke Murata. I still do in a lot of ways, but yeah. So that was my big influence on that. And I think he his energy really helped me get it done. So
that's I could definitely see that. Like especially like early iShield. Is very like kinetic, and like there's a lot of cool angles. I feel like he's less like less like that now.
Yeah,
his
it's a little too clean now.
It's less fun.
A little more mechanical than it used to be. Old iShield is just like so wonderful to look at.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, I still think that he's like an incredible draftsman, and his way he he produces work is so, and like I can't even understand it, but yeah, there was a charm to iShield back then that is totally like I'm missing now.
Yeah, definitely. I still like him a lot. It's just that I feel like iShield for me was like the peak in which I was like super interested in his work, and I only read it a few years ago, so I was like way behind on like everyone else like being super into it. But reading that and then also reading like One Punch Man, I was just like, I could really see where you've gotten like more skillful, but also like losing that cuteness and that charm like is a big deal for me. So yeah, but like so you did like, how long was the first Devil's Candy?
Oh, it wasn't very long. It was like 21 pages or something.
Okay. Well, you did it super fast, right?
Yeah, I had to do it super fast. I did it in a week.
That's so cool.
Which some people can do easily, but it's kind of hard for me to do. So
yeah, not me.
And it was all like new, like I didn't know, like I hadn't really done a lot of comics before then. Yeah. So I learned like so many things just in that little experience, and it was like it really made me want to keep doing more. So right after that, I did like some short stories. They're all crap, but just to like learn the materials and everything, I realized just how much I had to learn after doing it.
Did you ever go to school, like art school, Rem?
I went to school for art, but it wasn't like art school. Like I went to the University of Houston, and I was a painting major, but like their program was really like dumb, and it wasn't very great. So it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was like going to art school as much, but
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you have like a really strong like formalist style of inking, and I've always been like super impressed by that. So I was just wondering because it's just really good. I'm like, this, you can't just learn this. No.
Yeah, it was all practice, really. I mean, I think I really learned how to ink from Soulless because I just had to do it so fast, and because that's the major thing I learned from Soulless was that like learning how to use a nib pen is one thing, like just technically how using it, but learning to use it fast is where all of the real expression and I feel like all of the artistry of using a nib pen comes from learning to use it really quickly.
Yeah, totally.
That's in my experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What'd you say?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I feel like, do you only use a nib pen when you work? Is that just your primary tool?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes for backgrounds I use like felt tip pens. But even that I don't really do so much because recently I've been drawing backgrounds on the computer more. But yeah, mostly I just use the G pen.
That's cool.
So how far ahead do you guys plan when you are doing the webcomic?
Usually we do it like chapter to chapter. Like we have like the skeleton of the story all set out, but as far as like writing, Bikuri, he tries to get at least a chapter done, although we're a little behind because he's been really busy with work, so it's like a half a chapter ahead of where I am.
Okay.
So it's cutting it pretty close most of the time. And we do improvise a lot, so sometimes it makes me sweat a little bit. Like, oh, are we going to have plot inconsistencies later or whatever? But so far it's been fine.
Interesting.
I feel like as long as you're thinking about it, like it's kind of something that's in your mind to begin with. I feel like it is stressful, but it's not super hard to be like, to go back and kind of smooth it over.
Yeah, he has it all in his head pretty well and a lot better than I do. So, so I think that it's fine. I mean, like sometimes I like think about it like, oh, is this going to conflict with that? But yeah, he's the luxury I have with him is that he's got the opposite brain of me when it comes to that sort of thing. He's super organized. And I can't write because I can't keep events together very well in my head. And so he has a great memory and I have a terrible memory and just really great organizational skills. So I don't really have to worry too much. I think about it, but then it ends up never being an issue. So again, I'm really lucky.
I'm wondering, like, what draws you to the fantasy genre? Because I feel like most of your comic work has been in that genre, like kind of like gothic and...
I love fantasy. I mean, I love every genre to a certain extent. I think I just ended up in doing more fantasy stories. But, yeah, I mean, like, with Devil's Candy, I just really love monsters. So, just that diversity of characters is just so ideal. And although I'd love to do a story that's set in like in our world, nothing fantasy about it, I think that would be really fun. I'd definitely be missing those things all the time. I mean, when I draw just for fun or whatever, I always go back to those things. So I think I'll always want to do stories with some sort of fantasy element. But I'd definitely love to try to do ones that aren't like that. It just hasn't really. Yeah. It hasn't come up just yet. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you are always like creating characters like in each chapter, and they're always like super cute and cool looking.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, cute things are a weakness, I guess.
Yeah,
it's your strength.
So much fun.
What kind of themes are you like exploring with Devil's Candy? Because it's very like lighthearted and fun, but it can like veer into like more serious or dramatic territory.
I think like thematically, we want to explore the relationships between our characters, and just like just the way that people it's a hard question. Yeah,
I know.
it's
yeah. But that's an answer, is like exploring character, like relationship dynamics.
The relationships between our characters are really important to us, and we really feel that there's a lot of love that can be expressed between friends, and that's an important thing in our comic, and people supporting other people, and regardless of what they're like, or what they even what type of creature they are, or what sort of issues they might have. It's sort of sappy, but I think that there's like a really powerful quality to that as well. To just friendship, I guess. I mean, like, it's like a dorky way to put it, but even though it's sort of dorky, I think that there's still a lot of power in just exploring what kind of friendships people can have with each other.
Oh yeah, totally.
No, I love that stuff. I think for me, well, I feel like I've talked about this before, but for me, I'm like most interested in like character interaction and like characters' relationships. Like that's kind of for me like the meat of most stories and comics. I feel like when people don't get into that, I'm like, it's missing something. Like, I can't get into this. Like, if I don't care about the characters, then I can't care about the story.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's a lot of really, like, good concept-driven stories. Yeah. Like, I mean, stories with really great concepts, and you can't just let yourself be a part of the world because the characters are so uncompelling,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're trying to deliver a character-driven story, and so their relationships are really important, and yeah, we want them to be friends.
Yeah. No, that's like a nice counterpoint to like having this like solid foundation thematically to like the actual like complex world that you've built together, because you have all these like different types of monsters, and you also have like robots, and so I think that complements each other very well. You have this super grand world, and then you have this just solid like human, theme that everyone can latch onto.
Yeah, I think it's really thoughtful, and I feel like if it didn't have that like human aspect to it, like the emotional and like relationship driven aspect, then like you would still have like the very beautiful and like well thought out world, but it wouldn't have the same impact. And also I feel like your work really benefits from like characters reacting to things, which I think is like super cute.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun making something that's really expressive.
How has it been like working in like a webcomic format? I know you've done webcomics before, but I think this is your longest running one, if I'm...
I did like short things, but yeah, this is the only thing that I've like really tried to keep up with, consistently for this long of a time. I think tomorrow is our 3rd anniversary.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
Congratulations.
That's so awesome. How many pages in are you? What's the page count right now?
Oh, dear Lord. I don't know. That's a good question.
I was trying to look, but I can't tell. But you're like on the 5th volume. And
well, it's like chapter 6, and chapter 6 is only 15 pages in, but like on average they're about 50 pages
like
each.
250.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Probably a little more, because there are a couple of chapters that were like more around 70
almost
page range.
Pages. It's crazy.
So cool. How has it been like keeping up, or not keeping up, but like engaging with like your readers? Like, do you have a lot to do with them, and has it like, I don't know, proved a challenge to have an audience reading page by page?
That's something that's been a really fun challenge for us. As far as interacting with our audience, we sort of split the workload, quote unquote, as far as that goes. Bikuri, he reads and manages comments from the website itself.
Okay.
And I don't really take part in that quite as much. But he has a lot more to say when it comes to their questions. Their questions are a lot more in depth and stuff. And then like I update on Twitter a lot, or much more frequently than on the website or on the Tumblr. And so if people have little things to say on Twitter, then I talk to them there. Yeah, it's been a fun format, like thinking about what people are going to be looking at week to week, versus what, how it went with like Soulless, where they were reading month to month, and getting 30 pages at a time. But I like it. I mean, I like thinking about each page and drawing each page, giving, I guess I feel like I need to have a little bit of a cliffhanger or a punchline at the end of each page. Yeah, but at the same time, not make that too obvious, because sometimes it's really obvious in webcomics and it's kind of painful to read, like 10 pages at once when each page has a stopping point,
Right, yeah.
So we're always thinking about the page in its book form, reading as as chapters rather than as updates. It is fun to think about them as updates and consider the fact that people will have to wait 3 days or 4 days in between the next page, each page, I mean.
So is your update schedule based on how fast you get your pages out, or is it just or the other way around?
I guess it was gonna be like, I was gonna try and do at least 3 a week, but I guess I found that a little harder to manage than I was expecting. So
that's crazy. It's a lot.
Well, I mean, like right after Soulless, I was like, oh my god, like working on Soulless was so hard. I can easily do 4 updates a week.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was doing like, I was doing a lot more than that. I was like doing 6 to 8 pages a week. And so I thought I could cut that in half, it's no problem, but it actually is pretty tough. And when you have like Patreon stuff to do and various random freelance things, then yeah, it ends up being a lot. And also I, like, unlike Soulless, where I was really just tearing through each page, I want to spend more time with each page in this comic. It's just so enjoyable that I want to take my time with it a little bit more, but yeah, so it's kind of half and half. Half that's as much as I can produce, and half it's as much as I want to produce.
Yeah, you're doing Patreon stuff as well, so you're doing like full illustrations every month, or
I'm doing full color illustrations every month. What I can manage for wallpapers, as well as like I do several like weekly illustrations, and what else do I do? Some other monthly illustrations as well.
That's intense. You have like a huge workload.
It's somehow ended up being more of a workload than I was expecting, but it's not that bad. The Patreon stuff is all really fun.
And are you supporting yourself solely on like your Patreon and Devil's Candy?
The Patreon has been really good. Devil's Candy, I don't get a whole lot of income from Devil's Candy, but that was never the point anyways. So I mean, down the line, definitely we would like to make more income from Devil's Candy, but as it stands right now, it's just building up and stuff. But yeah, we're doing okay.
Are you guys working with Hiveworks? Is that what it is? Okay.
Right now we're one of Hiveworks titles.
How is that? How is working with them, or is it something that you want to keep on doing, or is it like, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Well, we're sort of negotiating our contract right now, so I'm wondering how much I should say. But I mean, like, they've been nothing but great as far as how I've been working with them in the past. They're really supportive and they're really nice people. And it's been mostly just hands off. But whenever I need help or whatever, they're there. So, and it's been interesting being part of a community of artists. You know, like when I do cons, like New York Comic Con or Emerald City Comic Con, they'll sometimes have a presence there, and like they'll have like a whole bunch of artists there and stuff. And yeah, it's interesting to be a part of a webcomics community. I've never really had that before, so
that's cool. And Hiveworks is like, did they host Devil's Candy and then they kind of like advertise on all the collective sites? Is that its function?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They host the website. So that's nice. And yeah, the advertising. Yeah, that's basically it.
That's cool.
If we had like a book, or if we had merch in their shop, then they'd be doing a little bit more.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because for some artists, they do like Kickstarters for them and help them release their books. And stuff.
Nice.
And we hadn't really gotten to that point just yet. So
interesting. Are you looking? I know we talked a little bit at Emerald City, but how is it going finding kind of like someone who will publish like the collected version of Devil's Candy?
I guess that's mostly been on me being so preoccupied with other things this year,
yeah, for sure.
that it's been really hard to actually communicate with anyone. And also like I've had this deal where my whole life, like I haven't really been the one to approach people about my ideas or my art.
Okay.
It's just happened that way. Like I'm a really introverted person, but people will somehow find me like on DeviantArt or whatever and ask me, do I want to be a part of this project? You know, do I want to work on Soulless or Vampire Kisses or whatever? And I'll say okay or not okay. So now I'm in the position where I'm like actually like needing to go out and look for people, and I'm sort of like horrified. But yeah, like it's been a really, really busy year. I've done more cons than I've ever done my whole life this year. I did like 7 of them or something. Or maybe it was 6 and I'm about to do 7 because I have one more next month. Yeah, so it's the whole, like, up until, like, last month, it was, like, a blur. But, you know, as soon as con season ended, then the hurricane hit. And like, yeah.
That really
that kind of
no peace. No time for thinking.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's been a lot, like, a lot of just, like, trying to manage the comic, you know, and making sure it stayed on schedule and stuff, and that Patreon stayed on schedule. And yeah, now is the time to finally start looking into getting the book like properly published and stuff. Yeah, so that's a work in progress.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to have like a big tome of Devil's Candy.
I know.
A beautiful book.
That would be nice. Yeah, it's always weird to have your book in hand. I'm sure you guys know the feeling. Or maybe you're used to it and it doesn't...
It's just funny because sometimes I'll be like drawing and then I'm like, what happened like in the previous chapter? So I have to like actually look at it. I'm like,
yeah.
Right. Or like you forget what your character was wearing, so you reference.
Yeah, or it's like someone you don't like draw very often, so you're like, what do they look like?
Right, yeah. Right. So that's nice. I have like I had just like a couple chapters that I had published on my own, and that was fun. But we want like a big fat thing eventually.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I really good luck with everything. We're always here if you need help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not that we know anything. But.
Yeah, I'm like. Well, you guys know a lot more than me. I'm like, I've been shocked at how little I know. So, and yeah, you know, like, me and Bikuri kind of had the agreement that, you know, since he has his full-time job and stuff, working for Funimation, that like, you know, I would take the publishing side of Devil's Candy, and I would be responsible for that and stuff. Because he, you know, we know he doesn't know any more than I do as far as that goes. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. But I have some good help, so yeah, I might have to get some questions. So.
You probably have like a lot of options for people that want to publish Devil's Candy. So
yeah,
the whole publishing scene is your oyster.
I'm really happy. Like so far, it seemed like everyone's been really interested, and which is very different than our experience. Like around 2007, we were pitching it around, and publishers were actually like, "Eh, looks too manga. We don't want that." And so that discouraged us for a long time. And I'm really glad that now everyone's super receptive and like, yes, give us this. We want Japanese style comics. That's okay. Cool.
Yeah,
it feels good to be fought over.
Yes, yeah, it is really nice. Kind of weird, but much better than the alternative.
Like, have you like, are there any like original English language manga titles that have like stood out to you in the past, or is it kind of like primarily like just you looking at other manga or regular or like American comics? Wow, that was a very poorly phrased question. Sorry.
Well, I guess at this point, you know, I use the term manga for clarity, but I don't really think about it like in those terms anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like thinking of something as OEL especially is like, it's such a Tokyopop derived term.
Totally.
That it's really like, it's sort of painful to hear it. But yeah, even referring something as manga or not manga is kind of perplexing to me at this point. And I guess maybe being a webcomic artist made me feel more like I was drawing comics than trying to emulate, you know, Japanese comics. So yeah, I guess as far as but as far as like American made comics that are Japanese inspired, I guess I don't really follow anything too closely at the moment. I mean, I'm just like reading whatever is interesting. We're reading a lot of like Marvel stuff, because like in the past couple years they've really like branched out as far as like different styles of artists and of writing, and it's been really interesting to see them experiment with their titles. And I love like I fell in love with some artists that I knew nothing about, like Allred. I think is so great.
Oh, Mike Allred. Okay.
Yeah, Mike Allred.
He's an iZombie guy.
Yeah, he worked on that. I know him for from the Ecstatics. Is spinoff. It was really and Silver Surfer was really, they had like a new Silver Surfer that was like really great. I actually still need to finish it, but everything I read was some of like the best comics I've ever read. Yeah, it's been really nice to like, because that was one of the reason why we started reading more Marvel stuff was just because like doing a webcomic, we were so like isolated in the world of translated Japanese comics.
Yeah.
We felt like we really needed to like read comics from our own language, from people from our own country.
Yeah.
You know, and like just like, because everything reads differently and more naturally when you're reading comics written by, you know, by English speaking people. So that was sort of like a dumb realization, but a really good realization too, because we just, a whole world opened up to us, and I think it really improved a lot of things about Devil's Candy. also reading more webcomics because I read zero webcomics. I still don't read a lot now, but it was good to discover that. Yeah.
What do you think are some of the things that stood out to you as you've gotten into more Marvel series? I don't think me or Leslie read too much superhero stuff, but that's interesting that made a big impact on your writing and maybe drawing style.
Drawing style maybe not as much. I still read. I'm still just primarily influenced by Japanese artists as far as style goes. The way that they sequence events and the panel flow in American comics is so different than what I'm used to, and I don't really like it as much. I feel like there's this abruptness about it or something. But I was surprised that, like the superhero format it's really weird because you have this whole legacy of, decades that they're pulling from. The characters have been built up over, since the 40s, and you experiencing these stories, like seeing how the writers and the artists work within that realm of having to work in the lore is really interesting to me, because even though I guess it's like fan fiction,
totally,
definitely.
Because they're working with this pre-existing lore, pre-existing characters, but it just forces them to be more clever, and to be, to make bold decisions, and I think it's really fun. And once you find characters that you can become attached to, then it's really fun. Like if you just look at it as superhero comics and you're reading it just without any context, it's not as much fun. But when I really love Ant-Man. He's really adorable, and so it's really fun to see him in his own comic or in other characters' comics, and see how he's portrayed, and stuff like that is really enjoyable. But then also seeing them work with writers or artists that are just really wildly out there, whose style is crazy, and see them do the same characters and stuff is really fun. So I don't know, it's been an interesting experience.
That's cool. I'm interested to see how, if I go back and read some of Devil's Candy, to see if pacing changes or different story elements, or storytelling techniques. But yeah, that's super cool.
I think the thing we gained, definitely the thing we gained the most from reading Western comics has been humor.
Oh yeah.
Because humor in Japanese comics is weird.
Yeah, but I think that's a really great point. I feel like if you're really into manga and you've always been into manga, you might just kind of get stuck in that and not really want to explore other things because they're not as immediately accessible in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was super daunting at first getting into American comics, but once we did, we were really grateful for it, really happy to be able to experience those characters and stuff that everyone else likes.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't if it's not super visible in your work, being able to open yourself up to different types of things that you never really thought you would enjoy really helps your work overall, I think, just because you can expand your mind a bit.
I definitely feel like everyone should, every comic art should definitely see, if you just draw Western comics, you should look at Asian comics, you should look at French comics. And, British comics, which are really weird, or whatever, I didn't realize that British comics were kind of weird, but old ones anyway. But yeah, it was really fun to explore comics from different countries, and I'd still really love to read more French and Italian comics, but it's just so hard to get translations of them.
Yeah, I think it's been getting better and a bit easier, but there's still not as many. There's not a lot of diversity. It's mostly like the same artists or writers whose work gets translated. But I mean, hopefully in the future, who knows? Have you read like 100 Bullets?
100 Bullets. I guess not.
Well, it's like Sloane and I talk about it a lot, but it's like one of those. It's by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Riso. And it was like a Vertigo comic that went on for 100 chapters. And it kind of, it's like an American comic, but it has a lot more interest. It has a more interesting like take on paneling. It's a bit more free and like a bit more like manga, I would say. So I definitely think that might be something worth checking out because it's like really well written and really well drawn. And you'd probably enjoy it.
And it also has like a noirish inking style, which I think you would like as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love noir comics. Those are so much fun to read.
It's like super skillfully done and just kind of like one of those, it like kind of stands on top of a lot of other Western comics as something that's actually like really great to read. And I feel like even if you're not super into American comics, it's one of those things where it's like kind of magnetic and most people enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's still like so many like classics that I haven't even read or haven't gotten to yet. So
yeah, there's just like an uncountable amount of comics to read, and you can't ever really run out.
I wanted to touch back just real quickly, like on your take on humor in Devil's Candy and like comedy. How much of that is like writing, and how much of that is kind of like you on the fly? Because I feel like a lot of comics humor, it relies so much on like visuals, especially like manga influenced humor has a lot to do with like I don't know, just like caricaturing the character to a ridiculous degree, or how's that process for you of like adding humor into the story?
That's really fun because Clint will have gags written in I'm trying to think. Or like there will be like a moment for a visual gag or whatever, and I'll definitely try to take whatever is in the script and improvise as much as I can, just to see what I can get away with a lot of times, or to see if I can make it more ridiculous or more exaggerated. But yeah, he writes most of the gags, but the visual gags will be a lot me, a lot my it'll be kind of more on my end.
That makes sense.
Yeah, those are that's a really fun part of the series too. Just trying to think of ways to make it more ridiculous or whatever.
Yeah, there's some really good gags. I am working on a graphic novel that's like slice of life, and I didn't like, there's funny parts, but I never thought about drawing it like in a funny style, and so I did, and I was like, it opened up like a whole new door for me. I'm like, whoa, and I'm like, this kind of fits, even though most of the story is like fairly serious and like, but it's interesting introducing an element of like abstract humor. To kind of counter the rest of the mood.
Yeah.
Totally.
I've been reading the Oyasumi Poon Poon guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. His
Asano.
visual humor is really interesting.
Totally.
And I've been reading I couldn't make it through Oyazumi Poon Poon. It was a little too heavy for me. But it's pretty dark.
Very dark.
But having read a little bit of it, it was fun to go into his newer series, with this extremely long title.
It's like the dead
like
something.
Dead demons, dead destruction. And it's a lot more. It's not as heavy, but it's got that dark element to it, definitely. And it's great knowing his other works because you're always in this uneasy suspense of terrible things happening. But they don't always happen. It's kind of like it's kind of a light-hearted, funny series most of the time. So having that juxtaposition of like really funny visual gags happening, but also this impending dread happening constantly is great. That's a level of comic making that I don't know if I'll ever achieve, but
like Pun Pun is one of my favorite stories from him, and just having that little Pun Pun birdie guy like against all these like horrible abusive evil characters, and like it's like really intense, but it's like a really powerful like storytelling tool and like mood maker. But it's really impressive.
I really don't like his work.
Like
but
I haven't liked anything but Derere. I feel like it hits just the right tone for me to where I can take the depressing or like I feel like it goes into pretentious a lot of his work, and I'm not really there for that in comics in general, but there's a emotional quality in Derere that's like it's right on point for what I want. It's like perfect. So so far it hasn't ended yet. So, but 5 volumes in, I'm with it every step of the way. I think it's perfect. So
I got to catch up on that. I think since we were talking about like favorites, maybe we can talk about like work that has had impact on your storytelling and art style. I know you mentioned like Eye Shield already, but what are some other of your favorite works that have maybe are impacting you right now?
My favorite, it's so hard to pick. But One Piece has always been a gigantic influence on me. I started reading it when it started, so I grew up with One Piece, and he, is one of the most accomplished artists that I've ever seen. And I mean, like, people think about One Piece and they just think it's like this silly cartoony mess, but as a comic creator, he's really a powerhouse. Like, and he's always impressing me, or blowing me away, I should say, on what he's able to do just visually, like effects or whatever, even if you're not into it for the story, it just it's visually so exciting and so much fun. So that's a huge influence on me for Devil's Candy, especially. Yusuke Murata's work, I love. He's like sort of a balancing point for me. Like, I look at his work to kind of like I guess whenever I'm like feeling uninspired or whatever, I look at his work just because it's so perfect. And even if it's like not always the level of expression that I want, or emotional expression, it's still just his draftsmanship gets me really excited. I really love Dororedoro by Kyu Hayashida. That's one of my all-time favorite comics. It's visually so interesting. I don't pull a lot of that into my work, but it just gets me really excited about comics and the story and the characters. I'm really influenced by like the characters. Her story is a really character-driven story, and they're all so dorky and so dumb. And I love it when all the characters are dumb. It's so much fun, and even if they're super dangerous or super scary, they're still dumb, and she's able to do that so perfectly, and I love her stories so much.
I love her art is like kind of dirty looking, and like all her characters are really buff, but they're like really stupid and funny, and the story's very dark, but it like feels like a very real world. Like I could see that in Devil's Candy for sure. Like, it's kind of like you're building a world that has like very serious consequences and like magic and stuff. And there's like different types of people, but also like, you know, they have lives and they like live in the world.
Yeah, I like I like having that really insane world with like really mundane, you know, just like stupid stuff happening, you know, like it's this crazy world where like, you know, horrific beings are flying in the air, but you still got to take the bus to work.
Like people definitely like live in that world, and it's like it's fuller because of that. Not just because it has like huge lore or anything. It's like a place where people like go to work and they eat food and have friends.
Her world is definitely like that, and it's you're never going to get all of your questions answered about the world, but that's fine. You know, just like being in it is really fun, and it's always going to be interesting. So yeah, it's fun to take that from it. I just got into Golden Kamuy.
Oh yeah, that one's so good.
Oh my god,
Sloane, you would like
gotta
it.
read
you would
it.
really like it, I think.
Yes,
it's like survivalist, but like humor and like food and absurdism.
It looks really crazy from the like screen caps you posted. It looks crazy.
It's really crazy.
I was just talking to Bikuri about it last night, how I'm just like, what did I do to deserve this amazing comic? Because it's so like, well, like, you know, I mean, it doesn't come out in Devil's Candy, but like, I'm a huge like Victorian era fan. You know, like steampunk is fun, but like just Victorian era stuff, I don't know what it is about it. I'm just really, really in love with it. And Golden Kamuy set in like the
like 1900s, early 1900s.
It's actually it should be around 1890-ish.
Okay.
1890, 1895. I'm not 100% sure.
It was like the Russo-Japanese War era, like right after that, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many years after that, but pretty soon after that. It's just the perfect period, and it's like the story is great as is, but he keeps giving you presents. Like, if you're a fan of that era, and like, he's like, hey, would you like in an H.H. Holmes parody? Hey, would you like, you know, some serial killer parodies? Hey, you know, like, and it's just like, what? I didn't know I wanted this. This is so perfect.
He's anticipated your needs.
Yeah, but I'm trying to read it as it comes out in the magazines, but I actually got to start like buying the magazines because it's I can't believe it's a weekly series.
I know, it's crazy.
It's so insane, and the art is so good and everything. So it's inspiring me so much because he's able to juggle all of these adorable, goofy characters and create and with amazing artwork, and also give all this historical information and cultural information. And he's just like so ambitious with his stories that it really inspires me to just work harder and be a better creator all the time.
Yeah, I like that one a lot because I remember I was like reading a interview with Satoru Noda, and he was like he was basically like, it was just so funny when people are really candid about how they feel about comics, because he was like kind of he was being asked about what he thought about Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in the Dungeon, and he was like, I don't read any other comics, like I hate that this comic has like won over me, like for like there's like some yearly prize that like Dungeon Meshi was like one of the most popular ones, and he was like, I hate that, like I hate it when other people like win over me, like I feel like I work so hard on this comic, and I'm like, this is so funny, like people saying stuff like that like really makes me laugh. Like people saying that their comic is their favorite comic, or like that, you know, they really feel like a little bit salty because they don't get enough acknowledgement, is very like earnest and human, and I think that it's so ballsy. Yeah, I feel it. I'm going to agree with him. I mean, I love Dungeon. I think Golden Kamui's better. Or I like Golden Kamuy better than.
I feel like Golden Kamuy, if people are not giving it more awards, it's just because they haven't read it. You know, it deserves everything. I mean, yeah, like either you're just biased against it for some reason, or you don't you haven't read it, because technically it's just like so perfect.
Yeah, and it just keeps on like
it delivers so much.
It just keeps on getting crazier, and it keeps on like one-upping itself. Like,
yes.
So, and I just love that. I feel he takes like, it starts out pretty normal, like kind of what you would expect. It's very like there's still like a lot of elements that are unexpected, but it just gets more and more like over the top, and it's really fun to read because of that.
And it's like, you know, I thought it was great how he sort of like eased you into a sense of humor, because if he had like started off with it as insane as it is now, like I think it would be a little unrelatable for people or something. But yeah, he sort of eases you into how weird the characters are, and it eases you into the sense of humor, and eases you into like the gore and stuff as well. To where like at this point I feel really like, am I just desensitized to all this insanity that's in this comic? But yeah, it's really good. But and he's like is he doing another comic at the same time, the hockey comic?
Oh yeah, I don't know if that one's weekly though.
Yeah, it can't be weekly.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, Sloane, you should read it.
I can't underestimate him at this point.
Okay, I'll read it.
Sorry for ranting about Golden.
No, you sold it to me. You sold it.
One thing that I found really amusing is just on Twitter, or like people I know, if they like Golden Kamuy, they also like Dororedoro.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
They're very similar. So, or at least in the way the characters are. And
yeah, there's certain things. Like, I feel like now that I'm playing Yakuza, I feel like Golden Kamuy's like Yakuza too.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
it's very like character and like kind of like male heavy, but also like full of heart and not just like,
yeah, you have all of these dangerous but adorable people, and they fight each other, and whenever they do, you're like, no, don't fight, don't kill each other, I love you all. So yeah, it's definitely got that. Yeah, and everybody's dumb.
Yeah. That's something we should take away, is that we just like dumb characters that mess up all the time.
Yeah.
That makes stories fun.
I do know that. I do know I like that. That's another thing I like about all Red stories, actually. All of the characters are kind of doofuses and stuff. All the things that are written by him and his brother. Mm-hmm. There's like an all Red team, like his wife and him and his brother.
Yeah,
they like create comics together.
Don't his kids do comics as well? I feel like it's an entire like family.
Oh God, I don't know. That's great though. But yeah, so those comics are really influencing me right now. And I don't know. I read a lot of Japanese comics, and I have a large library that I pull from. So I guess those are my main One Piece and Yusuke Murata stuff, and are my main go-tos.
Nice.
But yeah, there's a bunch of other ones. I've been looking at and I feel like a lot of people do, but I've been looking at Hikana, I think is her name.
Oh yeah, I just bought a bunch of her books recently.
I just really love the way she draws backgrounds. I'm not like super crazy about her characters that much, but yeah, just the way her comics look in general, and the way she draws backgrounds, or the way she handles her environments, especially.
I feel like she's really good at melding her characters into the environments.
Yeah.
Like the scale is really good, and just like the overall feel. Like sometimes it's hard to get that same like inking quality that you would in a character as you would as like also in the background.
Yeah, or it's like you can tell that you know the background is like an afterthought or something. And the world is really well realized, and the characters look really natural in them. So that's it's been really nice to look at her comics and think about that. And just also the way she manages just like black and white is really interesting. Mm-hmm. You know, all those spot blacks are really really nice looking. So
Who is this artist again? Will you say the name?
Kikana.
Kikana.
She's done like a lot of like boys love and like shoujo manga. I think right now she's working on a shoujo serialization. But like her comics are kind of like comics ASMR, like visually. Like they're very relaxing to look at, and like the stories are like kind of like low consequence. Not in a bad way for sure, but like definitely like more slice of life and like a slower pace, which I like.
Yeah, I've ended up reading, like, I'm not really into like slice of life or romance that much. So I guess I've read her stories coincidentally because I'm looking at her comics all the time. But just like I can't remember the series, but whenever I like make an Amazon Japan order every couple of months, and if she has a new book out I just immediately buy it. So now I've got like 6 of them, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm a fan of her work now. But
you're like, I keep buying her books. I think I like her.
Yep.
Yeah, I recently bought like that one like series about this boy and his boyfriend, or this guy and his boyfriend. And I was like, I already read this, but I'm gonna buy the books because they're so pretty and like they're really nice books. Like they're really good comics.
Yeah, it's really nice to have the books. I try to buy as many books as I can.
Definitely.
It's really nice to have them. And yeah, especially artists whose art style I'm looking at a lot. For some reason, it's just a lot better to me to have them on paper, to see it on paper.
I like have a bunch of files where just like I'll save things I see on the internet, but I don't look at them. It's so like messed up, and like that's why I kind of like buying books so much, is because sometimes I'll just sit down and like look at them and pour over pictures or like words or whatever, and then it makes like such a big impact that's like a bit different from just looking at things online.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially if you're working, I mean, like Leslie, you work on paper as well, right? Yeah, so I feel like when you look at paper and you're working on paper, somehow in your brain it makes a lot more sense, right? In my experience.
Yeah. And if you're like away from the computer, you're not going to be like running back to it all the time to kind of like get some inspiration. Sometimes you'll have like a book around you, and then you'll like pop it open and just to like give your brain a break.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. I have like I mean, I look at a lot of reference material online, but like right next to me, I'll have like a book stand with like pages open all the time.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, book stands are really handy.
Awesome. Well, it's been about an hour. So I don't want to keep you too long, but Leslie, do you have any like last questions or
I'm like
things we should cover?
About a lot of things. I don't I'm like trying to think. Well, have you ever, I guess like this is kind of just not really like a last thought or anything, but would you ever like consider not doing traditional inking or comics in that sense? Well,
I have done some things just on the computer before, and something I don't really like about it. Like I feel like I lose some level of expression or something when it's just digital. That's made me feel like I don't want to go back to that. But I mean, I guess I could try, like especially if I was doing something that was just in color, because I never really color on paper. I just don't have enough experience with it. So if I was going to do something in color, then I definitely do it digitally, like all digitally. But yeah, I guess I'd like to try and stay on paper if I can.
That's true. You're so good at it. I feel like it'd be kind of like starting all over.
Yeah,
it'd be like have a new like inking style.
Yeah, it would probably be helpful to do a different inking style digitally, so that I wasn't trying to emulate the style I was doing on paper. You know.
It's hard to get that spontaneity that you have with like a nib. and like the speed of your hand and the line weight. Like it's so hard to get that digitally, even if you have like really good brushes.
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes I'll try to do something like on my Cintiq and then my computer will freeze and I'm like, this would never happen on paper. Like, I would never have to stop my stroke just because my computer froze.
I have a lot of issues with glare. Her new place has so much natural light that working on the computer is kind of a pain because I can't see anything. I need to even if I close all the blinds and stuff, it's so bright that everything looks really washed out on my Cintiq. So unless I want to just draw at nighttime, it's really nice to just draw on paper instead. So
do you use like a light box or like Manga Studio or anything, or is it just like straight to
what
paper?
I usually do is I do my layouts digitally. I didn't used to, but because I thought that if I did layouts on paper, I would get more like energy in them. But it's really not any different on the computer, and I can move things around a lot easier. So I usually do my layouts on the computer and then a rough sketch on the computer, and I print them out onto the manuscript paper in blue, and then sketch a little bit over them or just ink straight on top of them. So I don't really need to use a light box or anything that way. I used to use Lightbox, and I would lose so much expression using the Lightbox. For some reason, it just doesn't work for me.
And like, I know we were talking about this at Emerald City, but you have like a really strong desire to do like black and white comics. Like, I don't think you want to do color ever for Devil's Candy, right?
I wish that I just was better at coloring things. You know, like if I was more comfortable with it, then maybe I could do it. But it's like. I'm so inexperienced with it, and I love the look of black and white so much that I'd rather just keep it in black and white. I mean, it might be cool to have it in color, but in my head it's black and white, and I love it being in black and white. So, yeah.
I love the way your inks look. So I feel like I guess I wouldn't not be interested in seeing it in color, but I feel like your line work is very strong and your spot blocks are very strong, so I don't know. It's hard to say. Would you have someone else color it maybe, or would it just...
I mean, I'm open to experimenting, but like having someone... I'm a real control freak, and Devil's Candy is like my precious baby, so the thought of having someone else color it, I immediately have a knee-jerk reaction to that. But in having read a lot of American comics now, I understand how much a colorist can really improve or work more than you would expect. And even people with really strong line ink work, like Allred, you know, their comics can still be in color and still look great. So yeah, I'm totally open to it, but I guess I can't imagine it really being so much better in color, like personally. But
yeah, after doing coloring work for like a couple years, I just like love black and white so much. Even though I have so much fun coloring, I'm like, no, this would look better just as black and white. But I guess I have to color it. So
that's how I feel.
I feel like maybe it's one of those things, you know, when you see a page of your comic or a drawing of yours in pencil, you feel like, oh, there's so much expression and stuff, and it's going to be lost in the inks. Maybe it's the same way with color. But in the end, the end product is still good. You're just like comparing it to a previous version of itself that had qualities to it that you liked. And so that comparison is skewing your vision of how it looks as the end product. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, it can definitely be that. And like, I feel like color can flatten out the depth that just black and white gives it. It makes it a little weaker visually, but it just like really depends on who's coloring and how they're coloring. But I always opt for, like, if I can, just like the stronger style of just like having black and white because it's so stark and like powerful.
Yeah, like I think I never realized how I feel like sometimes like I will sketch something like in storyboard form and then I'll ink it and I'm just like, what happened? Like I lost it along the way. Or sometimes I'll see like a panel that I drew that I was really into and I'll see it colored and I'm just like, this is not right. Or like I did something weird and somehow it got interpreted weird. So I feel like coming to terms with that or just like kind of fixing it in post makes a difference. But it has definitely changed like the way that I work, especially with like if I'm working on Snot Girl, then I feel like I have to be more conscientious and like not everyone's in my brain all the time. So it's kind of been like a practice of me letting go a bit, but also like me trying to get better at being a better draftsman makes a huge difference. And I feel like it becomes more readable that way. And even though I feel like not so much compromising, but I felt like it's always hard to not feel like you're losing something along the way when you're trying to change something in order to accommodate other people as well. But
I mean, you're part of a collaborative effort in the end. So we have to make compromises and stuff. Yes. But right now I'm really enjoying not being a part of a collaborative effort. So yeah, the thought of it, like I can't believe that. Well, I can believe it, but I mean, like the thought of someone like actually inking my comics for me, like I do the sketches and inking it for me, is like horrifying.
No, that's.
But there are plenty of artists that do that, you know, and their comics are fine and but I can't.
Or like, even me like having ink someone else's comic would feel weird to me, but that's just me.
I totally agree with that. I feel like I'd feel like I was just destroying their work. I don't know.
Yeah, or it's hard to know if what you're saying is what they actually wanted you to work on. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, you have to be really intuitive, I think.
It's like I guess coloring is a little less like it's a little more interpretive and less. I feel like inking is so invasive, but that could just be me because I like inking and coloring. I'm just like whatever. Someone else can color for me. I don't care.
Also, I feel like I feel like with inking, you're really like running over somebody else's work, and putting yourself all over it. You know, and coloring, like it's sort of in between. Like you set down the structure of how it looks and everything, and they're putting something on top of it, and they can only like change it so much. I mean, I've seen very extreme cases of them coloring something and making look completely different. But
for the most part, the structure's there, and
with inking, I feel like you're really like you can even take that person's personality and just totally change it or make it disappear. So that would I'd be really anxious about that. I'd have to feel like they really trusted me or really wanted me to work on their work to be comfortable inking somebody's work.
How did we start talking about that even? Oh yeah, coloring.
No.
Yeah. I think this is a good convo.
Yeah, do you have any like last thoughts, Ram? Like, would you have anything you'd like to say, like that you'd feel like we haven't covered?
I feel like I have a lot to say about OEL comics that would be good to talk about sometime, but that's a lot of things to talk about because I feel like there's a lot of weird feelings on that.
You should come back and we should talk about that because I wanted to do like a Rising Stars of Manga deep dive, but then I just didn't want to buy the volume, so maybe I'll look at them, actually buy them and do some more research and like talk about
them myself. But yeah, just the whole issue of how Tokyopop kind of made manga a genre, and that genre has stuck in the minds of American comic creators and publishers as something different than what they're doing, and how that's affected me a lot, you know, and how it affects a lot of people that I see trying to get published. I'm sure it's affected you guys too. So just being able to feel that you're an American creator that's heavily influenced by Japanese comics, it's been a strange thing all these years. And I feel like now it's finally like something I can feel totally comfortable with, and like everybody's, you know, like, well, not everybody, so many artists, even American, you know, artists published by Marvel and stuff are influenced by Japanese comics at this point. And you don't see them as OEL comic creators. You see them as comic creators. Yeah. So I think, I mean, like, yeah, it'd be cool if you guys did a podcast on that sometime, but that's it.
Okay. Yeah, you should come back and we should talk about it, because I've definitely had, like, I don't remember when it was. It might have been last year or the year before. I had a Marvel editor contact me, and then they were asking for samples or something. And I ended up sending them stuff. This was before Snot Girl had started running, so it wasn't like there was anything I could send them then. But then they were like, oh, I don't know, like, maybe you should do a test, because like your style right now is like very like manga influenced. That's not what we're looking for. And I was just kind of like, well, I don't know, this is kind of what you're probably gonna get. Like, there's not really anything I could do about that. Like, I could try to draw Marvel style, but it's gonna take it would be like more difficult for me, and probably more difficult for the editor, and just wouldn't be natural. And I don't I have like huge manga influences, but it's like, it's complicated for me, because it's just the way I draw and the way I think.
Yeah, I feel like you're a really good blend. I feel like your comics look like they're created by an American with a lot of influences. Yeah. You know, like American creators, they come from everywhere, you know, and so their influences are from everywhere too, you know. And you know, definitely. I'm half Korean, and you know, my life has had a lot of different influences, you know. So I feel like when people would tell me, "Oh, it's really, you know, manga influenced, can you try to like make it less so?" It's like
it's like the worst when they ask you to try.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's such a weird thing to ask someone to do and stuff, and so and I, you know, like the issue of manga as a format, you know, like people being told draw less manga, draw less Japanese style and stuff has been really weird. I feel like it's only been recently that I haven't had so many people come to me, like kids, like saying that their art instructors are telling them to not draw anime style because it looks terrible or it's not real art or whatever. So that's
definitely a bigger conversation we can get into later.
I keep trying to stop myself, but I feel like it's a big part of who I am, and it's a big part of I think a lot of creators around that grew up around when Tokyopop and manga started being a big thing, and grew up bookstores and stuff like that. I think that it's something that they had to struggle with as artists, so it'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get like you know, Adam Warren, he does like Empowered. Like I'm pretty sure like his was like marketed as a original English language manga. And then like who else? Well, like Felipe Smith and like Paul Pope and stuff. But it is a really interesting genre type that we should def talk about another episode. It's very weird, and like I don't know like another type of medium that has been marketed in that sort of way. Like it's just like I can't think of a comparison like in music.
Comics are just weird.
Yeah.
Comics are just weird people by weird people.
All these all these rising stars of manga survivors.
I know. Yeah. What happened? Where are they now? That would be like a BuzzFeed listicle I would read.
Amy Reeder or Svetlana.
Oh yeah.
Svetlana
did DramaCon. Is that her?
She did DramaCon, and now she does kids comics.
Oh, cool.
And they're really good too. That would be a fun reunion.
Okay. We gotta do it. We gotta do it now.
Gotta do it then.
Oh god, I don't want to think about how many years it's been. Have our 20th anniversary soon.
Yeah. Well, cool. Do you want to plug yourself, Rem, website and Twitter?
Where can we find you?
Oh, yes. You can read Devil's Candy for free. Mondays and Fridays it's updated at devilscandycomic.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tsulala, Tsulala. And actually any other social media. It's like Instagram and I think even DeviantArt, don't go to my DeviantArt. And everything. I don't use Facebook though, so I'm not on Facebook. But yeah, devilscandycomic.com is where you can read my stuff.
So cool.
Awesome. And do you have any conventions coming up?
I have Anime New York City, which is in the Javits Convention Center in Manhattan.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's like November 16th, I think.
Okay. Are you tabling there?
I am tabling there. I'll be sharing a table, but yeah. So I don't know how that's going to go. I think it's its first year, but...
Oh, really? Okay. Well, good luck. Good luck with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, go see Rem at conventions or like go read her amazing comics that she makes with Bikuri. And yeah, I've just been a really huge fan, so it's like been really cool to talk to you about comics and your work.
Yay! I'm so grateful that you guys invited me. I'm kind of like, nervous about these sort of things, but it's been really fun, and I'm glad that you asked me to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed
this has been awesome. Thanks, Rem.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and you can find the podcast at Salt and Honey Pod on Gmail, on Tumblr, and Twitter. And if you have questions or anything, you can tweet us or email us. You can find me at Leslie Hung on Twitter and Dairy Free on Instagram. And lesliehung.com is my blog.
Nice. And then my website is just sloanesloane.com, and that's also my Twitter handle. And then my Instagram is just Sloane Leong.
Well, thank you to Brian Fukushima for our theme music. You can find him on Twitter at Brian Fukushima, Brian with an I.
Yes.
And thank you again to Rem, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate and review if that's your thing. And thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Yay. That was awesome. Thank you, Rem.
Thank you so much.